If there's one thing that's frustrated Sterling Archer more than constant hangovers or rampaging cyborgs, it's the mystery of the identity of his father. This question was first teased all the way back in Season 1's finale, and technically went unanswered throughout the entire series. However, over the years, Mallory Archer has tossed out a gallery of potential baby daddies, from a former KGB spy master to a legendary jazz drummer. Even a US president's been floated in some theories. With each new suspect and red herring, Archer and the audience are left guessing, which has given our favorite spy some serious daddy issues along the way. Growing up fatherless left a surprisingly poignant mark on Archer's life, especially once he became a dad himself. So join me in the danger zone as we attempt to unravel who Sterling Archer's father truly is, and maybe along the way we'll see how this question helped shape the world's most dangerous spy.
How the heck are you, son?
Oh, fine. Awful. Whatever. Great. But I already have a father!
The mystery of Archer's father is more or less introduced in the Season 1 finale, Dial M for Mother, when Archer discovers that the man he'd always thought was his late father, John Fitzgerald Archer, never actually existed. Mallory faked an entire backstory complete with a phony military funeral rather than telling her son the awkward truth, that there are a few possibilities on the board and she doesn't know who his father is for certain either.
Why did he just call me son?
That's often a figure of speech.
Yeah? How often?
Very often. Just not in this case.
Mallory throws out three most likely suspects: Nikolai Jakov, head of the KGB, Len Trexler, head of Odin, and Buddy Rich, the famous jazz drummer. Though as the show continues, a few more suspects are thrown into the mix, but we'll go over them later. As head of the KGB and one of Mallory's old and sort of still ongoing flames, Jakov is presented as Archer's most plausible potential father. The show wastes no time hinting at this. During the Season 1 reveal, Jakov appears via video call and casually calls Archer's son, causing Sterling to faint from shock. Once Archer comes to, Mallory admits she had a secret affair with Jakov back in the day, and that he's indeed on the short list of candidates. Archer, in disbelief, sputters out a now classic rant.
Tell me how my father might be Nikolai Jakov, head of the KGB, or Len Trexler, head of Odin. I assume those are my only choices. Oh my, who else?
Mallory's not denying that Jakov could be Archer's father, and neither is Jakov. In fact, Jakov pointedly growls at Mallory during a tense exchange, hinting that he believes it to be true as well. The Jakov-Mallory tryst predates Archer's birth, and the timeline lines up almost too perfectly. According to Mallory, their romance ended abruptly when she disappeared for 9 months. Subtle. For decades, Jakov apparently had no idea Mallory's abrupt departure resulted in a son, not until she accidentally let it slip years later, which sent Jakov into a paternal frenzy. By Season 2's White Nights, Archer's daddy issues land him in Jakov's clutches in Moscow. Jakov casually kidnaps Archer to perform a paternity test at gunpoint, until a last-minute sabotage leaves the test unreadable. Archer eventually escapes Jakov.
What do you think are his odds?
Well, I guess maybe 1 in 3.
Yeah, no, I do not like those odds.
By the time Jakov appears again in Season 3's Crossing Over, the dynamic has shifted. Archer is no longer chasing an answer, and Jakov is no longer looking for proof. After Barry takes over as head of the KGB, Jakov defects to ISIS and is kept in an ISIS safe house. Eventually, Barry figures out where he's being held and uses the opportunity to kill Jakov. To rub salt in the wound, Barry makes sure to get rid of all traces of his DNA in the process, leaving Archer with no way to perform a paternity test, even if he wanted to. This definitely ranks as among the closest they ever got to giving us a definitive answer to the Archer's daddy question, and in classic Archer fashion, they pulled the rug out from underneath it. Although Jakov still seems to be the most likely candidate, there are still some other possible candidates. So next, let's talk Len Trexler, Mallory's longtime rival, occasional lover, and head of ISIS's rival spy agency, Odin.
And speaking of kiddo, I hope you're going to welcome me into your family.
Len Trexler is originally name-dropped as option B in the first conversation about possible fathers. Compared to Jakov, Trexler's candidacy for fatherhood is played more for laughs and awkward tension. Where Jakov is a menacing KGB bigwig, Trexler is a smug American spy boss, still powerful, but much easier to poke fun at. In Season 2's A Going Concern, Mallory puts ISIS up for sale after losing her fortune in a Ponzi scheme, putting Trexler in line to buy ISIS as an American office for Odin. When Trexler shows up to discuss the details of the sale with Mallory, it is clear that he is still very much in love with her. He's ready to marry her on the spot and hints at this throughout the episode, even going as far as to try to get Archer's blessing. Mallory plays along, seducing Trexler to make sure the details of the sale to Odin align with her desires. Though, when Trexler later finds out that Mallory wasn't quite the best mother to Archer, he clearly feels a bit of guilt, suggesting that he might have actually cared if he were Archer's father. Archer takes the opportunity to give Trexler his blessing, but only so he can sabotage the sale by implanting a mind control chip into Trexler, convincing him that Mallory is a horrible person. Archer succeeds, and Trexler's subsequent brain damage is fully played for laughs.
Can I have the bunny and the lettuce? Yeah, 'cause you know, they're brothers.
Is he always gonna be like this now? Because I feel bad.
Throughout the early seasons, Trexler maintains his on-again, off-again fling with Mallory. We see in a flashback in season 2 that Trexler was socializing with Mallory decades ago, implying he was in her life when Sterling was a kid. As of the later seasons, Trexler is one of the only baby daddy contenders still left alive, though it is implied that he now resides in a mental institution due to the effects of the mind control chip. While his last on-screen appearance was in season 2, the show never definitively ruled him out as Archer's potential father. So yes, Nikolai Jakov and Len Trexler are the two most probable biological fathers in Mallory's eyes. However, she did mention a third option, Buddy Rich, the jazz drummer.
Buddy Rich.
Oh my...
I could never say no to a drummer.
Could you say no to anybody?
But this is actually the last he's ever mentioned in this context. Beyond the big three, the show sprinkles a few more breadcrumbs about Archer's biological father. In season 3's Lo Scandalo, Mallory orchestrates a scandalous night with the Prime Minister of Italy, Savio Mascalzoni, in order to carry out an assassination attempt, one she had been planning for decades. All because years ago, Savio's fascist regime executed a young secret agent who notably had blue eyes, full lips, and thick black hair. Sound familiar?
Who may have been my son's father.
May have been? You don't know?
Mallory's uncharacteristic grief and fury over this man suggests he was more than just another fling, and I think implies that he very well could have been the guy. Some also theorize that this spy is the same man that appears later in Archer's snake venom-infused vision. We'll talk about that in a moment. Whether or not he's meant to be the definitive dad, Lo Scandalo gives us perhaps the biggest clue to date through the subtext of Mallory's actions. And then in season 4's aforementioned episode Once Bitten, Archer's subconscious seems to hold a piece of the puzzle as well. After Archer's venomous snake bite, he hallucinates wildly, teetering near death, and in his fevered flashbacks, he revisits a half-buried childhood memory. A young Archer at his birthday party receiving an alligator toy from a man whose face we do not see, claiming to be his father.
Thank you, mister. But who are you?
Sterling, I'm your real father.
Though as soon as Archer is about to recollect who the mystery man is, he receives the antivenom and wakes up from this hallucination. This is again among the closest the show ever gets to outright showing us the man who fathered Sterling. It's worth noting that the guy in the scene had an American accent, which would imply that it's not Jakov. Jakov also would have remembered this, and we know it doesn't fit the timeline of when Jakov discovered being Sterling's father was a possibility. But since this sequence is presented in a hallucination, we're left unsure if it was a real memory or a fantasy. Archer mentions that he did love alligators as a kid and even had a stuffed one, implying that this toy in the dream was real, though how he got it could be a different story. The Archer's father debacle isn't really mentioned again until the series finale, Into the Cold. The writers gave one last nod to the dangling father plot when Slater reveals that he secretly ran Archer's DNA through every database he could and actually discovered the identity of Archer's father. But Slater, being Slater, only offers this information as blackmail, and Archer decides that he doesn't actually want to know. In a moment of character growth and a touch of meta humor, Archer literally lets the answer slip away as he drops Slater off of a dam, exclaiming that he's come to accept his true family is the group of misfits he's had all along. It's a surprisingly poignant beat. After years of searching, nearly dying, endless drama, Sterling's choice leaves the audience both frustrated and oddly satisfied. While the mystery remains, Archer himself has made peace with it, and so the show's longest running question stays intentionally unanswered.
If you don't save me, you'll never know your father's identity.
Slater? Turns out I don't need to know. I know who my real father was!
Now, just because the show leaves the father question unanswered doesn't mean the audience is just gonna give up. This has spawned a whole host of theories, some of which are more probable than others. One popular idea is that Archer's father is someone we never saw on screen, essentially an unknown agent. This comes from the hallucinations Archer had when he was snake bitten. The mystery man was very aware that he was Archer's father, a sentiment none of the known suspects share. Evidence for this theory comes from Mallory's line in Lo Scandalo. As mentioned before, this man had all of the same defining features as Archer, and Mallory seemed to care deeply for him, implying at least some chance that this was the man. It's certainly what they seem to be leading us to think. While we never learn when exactly this man was gunned down, we do know it's been over 20 years since it happened, so the timing lines up as at least a possibility, and as mentioned, potentially fits with the hallucinatory dad from Once Bitten. Another more fun and involved theory points to someone far up the power ladder. So far, in fact, that the theory claims Mallory was forced to lie about numerous potential baby daddies to keep it a secret. In the season 5 premiere White Elephant, ISIS headquarters is raided by the FBI. During their questioning, Mallory makes a phone call to a mysterious benefactor, and the feds immediately back off. The agents questioning the team seem to be in shock by who they just received orders to back off from.
Oh, well then perhaps we should get him back on the phone.
I don't, there's no need to bother the, look.
This kind of pull alludes to Mallory being connected to someone like J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI. Remember, the timeline for Archer is pretty ambiguous, but the secretive nature of the relationship has led fans to speculate he could be a candidate for Archer's biological father. Covering up a slew of crimes by dangling an illegitimate child over his head definitely seems like a good enough reason to take Mallory's side, and also just seems very Mallory. In a similar vein, others seem to take the scenario even further, implying that Mallory's call was to the President of the United States, specifically John F. Kennedy. This theory comes from the fact that Kennedy was a known womanizer with multiple affairs under his belt, and the fact that he shares similar features to Archer as well. Mallory could have very easily leveraged a presidential tryst and secret love child to get her agency off the hook, and would explain the large cover-up of the true identity of Archer's father. Oh, and maybe most suspicious of all, recall the name that Mallory gave Archer's fake father before he learned the truth in season 1, John Fitzgerald Archer, a pretty definitive link to John Fitzgerald Kennedy. This one might be a stretch, but in a show whose timeline is shifty and has real historical figures pop up all the time, Archer's father being JFK is pretty interesting. Not all fan theories hinge on a new character or historical figure. Some turn the spotlight on characters that have been there the whole time, most notably Woodhouse. Archer's faithful valet has been floated as a dark horse candidate for his father, and on paper it definitely sounds more than a little absurd, especially considering we've seen how Woodhouse and Mallory met, and it was at Archer's birth.
Don't shoot! Please, I just killed a man and I think my water just broke, so I could really use a drink.
However, Archer's voice actor H. John Benjamin once reacted to this theory, stating it could be a possibility. It would definitely explain Woodhouse's loyalty, and why a man of his particular skills would settle into being a butler, you know, feeling a paternal responsibility and all. Going back to the hallucination flashback, Woodhouse is depicted as a separate person from the father that gives young Archer his birthday present, so this theory would only work if the flashbacks are not taken as reliable, which obviously still is possible. Woodhouse has always been the closest thing Archer has had to an actual dad, and even sometimes a mother, considering Mallory was often away and Woodhouse for the most part was just always there for Archer. This theory definitely taps into the strange, twisted family dynamic at the heart of the show, and it's actually something I touch a bit more on in my Mallory video if you haven't seen that, so check it out if you haven't.
After all, the real story's always been about you and me.
So after all this wild speculation, let's rewind to something the show itself almost gave away from day one. Before Archer ever aired on FX, Adam Reed's original pilot, then titled Duchess, actually confirmed Sterling Archer's father, and it wasn't a president, a jazz drummer, or some rando, it was Nikolai Jakov, the head of the KGB. In that early version, there was no mystery at all. Jakov was explicitly written to be Archer's biological dad, and if that plan had stuck, we wouldn't be debating this 15 years later. But as any Archer fan knows, that's not how things went down on screen.
What was I to do? Tell a 3-year-old his father might be in the KGB?
What? What do you mean might be?
There may or may not be a few other possibles in the mix.
Instead of sticking to the Duchess blueprint, the show took a hard turn into ambiguity. The very first season finale throws out Archer's presumed backstory in one swoop, and Mallory admits she invented the heroic pilot Blackjack Archer as a fake father figure, complete with a staged funeral and 21-gun salute. From that moment forward, the show leaned into the uncertainty. Archer is left literally fainting at the news, and we launch into a long-running gag. By now, it's clear that all these shenanigans were intentional. In interviews, Adam Reed even hinted that revealing the father was something he'd only do in the final episode, if ever. And lo and behold, when Archer finally reached its series finale, the question was left unanswered on screen. So how does this Lost Duchess revelation play into the fan debates? Well, it's a bit of a Rorschach test. If you're the kind of fan who puts stock stock in word of God info and early drafts, then the case for Nikolai Jakov being the real answer is compelling. After all, the creator's original script flat out named him. Jakov fits the timeline, Mallory's 9-month disappearance during her affair is a big clue, he has the cleft chin that Sterling inherited, and he was a recurring presence in Archer's life until his death. Even the other characters on the show seem to sense Jakov was the prime candidate. In this light, Jakov looks like the most credible answer, and the original pilot's confirmation adds weight to the idea that, deep down, Adam Reed always intended Jakov to be Archer's father.
You're not my dad!
How would you know?
You know, you showed me how important family is.
As the show illustrates, Archer's lack of a traditional dad had serious ripple effects. In the absence of a real father, Archer latched onto surrogate father figures like Woodhouse, Burt Reynolds, and Ron Cadillac, each of whom reflected a different facet of fatherhood. These men shaped Archer's worldview in ways that become especially clear when we look at Archer's own stumbling journey as a father to his daughter AJ. Woodhouse was essentially the only father Archer knew as a child. He raised him from infancy, filling the void left by Mallory's frequent absences and an entirely absent biological father. In a flashback in The Double Deuce, we learn that Woodhouse literally delivered baby Archer in a Tangier's bar during World War II, even giving Mallory a sterling silver rattle that inspired the name Sterling. Mallory promptly enlisted Woodhouse as a full-time caregiver. He shepherded infant Archer to safety and raised the boy alone for 5 years while Mallory was off on OSS missions. By the time Mallory returned, Archer didn't even recognize her. He clung to Woodhouse and didn't want to let go. This early bond made Woodhouse the closest thing Archer ever had to a nurturing parent.
Your mum's just got home from the war. Give her a proper hello.
No, I don't have a mother. And if I did, I'd hate her!
But as formative as the relationship was, it was also wildly dysfunctional. Mallory's eventual reassertion of control led Archer to treat Woodhouse with growing cruelty in later years. And if you've seen the show, you're familiar with the way adult Archer treats Woodhouse, hurling insults, demanding obedience, basically treating Woodhouse like a servant rather than a beloved guardian. But crucially, the show peppers in signs that Archer does care deep down. He'll fly into a lethal rage if Woodhouse is threatened. In The Double Deuce, Archer instinctively kills a man he thought was attacking Woodhouse, literally throwing him off his balcony to protect him. And on rare occasions, Archer drops the bratty facade and acknowledges Woodhouse's role in his life. During his season 2 cancer scare, Archer sincerely thanks Woodhouse for everything and even promises to treat him better, admitting he is practically family. It's a fleeting moment of gratitude, but it proves that Archer recognizes Woodhouse's love and sacrifice, however much he pretends not to. And Woodhouse's influence on Archer appears subtle, but I think it is profound. Having been raised by a loyal caretaker, Archer grew up subconsciously expecting that unconditional support. In practice, he initially emulated Mallory's neglect more than Woodhouse's care. For example, when Archer himself becomes a parent, his first impulse is to flee. Archer is absent for the first 6 weeks of his daughter's life, drowning his panic in a bender, obviously mirroring his own childhood. Mallory vanished for years and left Woodhouse to do the hard work, and now Archer did the same, but only for 6 weeks, unlike Mallory, who was gone for, again, 5 years. Archer actually ends up putting in an effort to be present for AJ, perhaps because somewhere in the back of his mind, he understands the importance of consistent parental figures. Woodhouse was that consistency for Archer, even if Archer only realizes that value in hindsight.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thanks, Woodhouse. This is amazing. Seriously, you outdid yourself.
And Woodhouse's death hits Archer hard. In the noir-themed Dreamland season, Archer fixates on solving Woodhouse's murder as his overarching mission. This was obviously all Archer's coma dream, but I think the fact that he lived out an entire murder mystery in Woodhouse's name in his subconscious speaks to Woodhouse's impact on Archer's life. His inability to bring Woodhouse back forces him to confront the fact that he loved the man who raised him. Woodhouse was the father Archer had all along.
Oh, Woodhouse. What I wouldn't give to force feed you aquarium gravel one last time. The turquoise. You hated that?
If Woodhouse was Archer's surrogate father in practice, Burt Reynolds was his surrogate father in fantasy. The show established early on that Archer idolizes Burt Reynolds. He grew up on his films, even modeled his own spy persona after Reynolds' characters. As series creator Adam Reed noted, "The only person on the planet who's a bigger fan of Burt Reynolds than me is Sterling Archer. Archer constantly tries to imitate Burt. So yeah, it's no coincidence Archer drives a muscle car, sports a mustache on occasion, and peppers his speech with references to Burt's movies. In a very real sense, Burt's cinematic heroics filled the void of Archer's missing father, giving young Sterling a larger-than-life role model to aspire to. All that hero worship comes to a head in the season 3 episode The Man from Jupiter, when Burt Reynolds guest stars as himself and starts dating Mallory. Archer's reaction is priceless. He's starstruck like a giddy kid meeting his hero until he realizes that hero is romancing his mother. Then it becomes a twisted blend of childlike jealousy and fanboy awe. Archer literally passes out from shock when he learns Mallory and Burt are seeing each other. He swings wildly between worshiping Burt and resenting him for dating his mom. This absurd scenario actually yields one of Archer's most poignant learning moments. In the midst of a high-octane car chase, Burt calmly turns into a mentor, giving Archer some fatherly advice in the coolest way possible. He tells Sterling to stop seeing Mallory as just mother and to consider her as a person with her own needs and happiness. Burt literally lectures sense into Archer at 100 miles per hour, telling him to let his mom live her life. By the end of the episode, Archer begrudgingly accepts Burt's relationship with Mallory and even apologizes for trying to interfere.
Have a good time, Mother. And I honestly mean that.
I'll blow it out your ass.
When Mallory remarries in season 4, Sterling gained a stepfather in Ron Cadillac, and he hated it. Ron is a Cadillac salesman with a shady past and represents the kind of stable, supporting father figure Archer never had, which is precisely why Archer reacts so poorly. On learning of Mallory and Ron's marriage, he is so traumatized that he actually develops psychogenic amnesia. He literally loses his memory rather than accept a new dad in his life. That very goofy gag, which actually manifested as Archer running off to live a life as Bob Belcher for months, underscores how profoundly uncomfortable Archer is with anyone moving in on the parental role. Seems like he didn't quite take Burt Reynolds' lesson to heart, but Ron is persistent, and while his dynamic with Sterling begins as antagonistic, it evolves in a way that really showcases Archer's growth. The turning point comes in season 4's Midnight Ron, where Archer drunkenly loses his money and passport in Montreal, and it's Ron who drops everything to pick him up and drive him home. What follows is a chaotic road trip adventure. Archer needles Ron patiently endures Archer's antics, and slowly a mutual respect forms. Ron reveals surprising depths that Archer respects, and Archer actually has fun. They eventually bond over the shared goal of annoying Mallory, a petty little alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. And maybe for the first time, outside brief moments with Mr. Reynolds, Archer doesn't completely despise the man courting his mother.
If your mother thinks we're all buddy-buddy...
Yeah, I mean, that would drive her insane.
It's also important to point out that Ron is the one father figure who models a healthy paternal role without also being a mentor or servant. He's just a regular guy trying to be a good husband and stepdad. He calls Archer out when needed. Hell, at one point, Ron even joked that Archer has a Norman Bates level obsession with Mallory, which not even Archer can deny. Ron's willingness to stand up to Archer with humor and firm kindness is something Sterling isn't used to. Over time, Archer begrudgingly accepts that Ron genuinely cares about Mallory, and by extension, cares about him too. By season 5 and 6, we see hints of a warmer relationship. Ron survives the chaos of being in the Archer family and even contributes to it in a supportive way. In season 6, Ron is shown happily reading a bedtime story to baby AJ, and AJ adores her step-grandpa. It's sweet to see this image of the normal, loving family life that Archer never thought he'd be a part of. Ron's influence on Archer is subtle, but significant. He represents stability. He's someone who chose a domestic life, albeit after a criminal youth, and genuinely enjoys it. He loves Mallory, sticks around through thick and thin, and even after major conflicts, he and Mallory reconcile and retire together hand in hand. That kind of steadfast devotion is something Archer had only seen from Woodhouse. With Ron, Archer gets a second chance to observe what a reliable father figure looks like. Ron is one of the few people in Archer's world who isn't intimidated by him and isn't out to use him. He just wants to be family. Archer may never openly call Ron a father figure, but he clearly was one.
Darling, please! Oh my God. Thank you, Sterling.
You're welcome. Shut up.
AJ, meet Sterling Archer.
Given the influence of these quasi-fathers, Archer's own attempts at fatherhood have been a mix of comedic failure, gradual improvement, and hard-earned reflection. Early on, Archer was the last person you'd trust with a baby, and he proved this. In season 2's Blood Test, when a former call girl claims Archer fathered her infant son, Archer's response is to rig the paternity test to dodge all responsibility. He's terrified at the mere idea of being a dad, going to absurd lengths to avoid it. Ironically, he ends up rigging the paternity test test with the real father's DNA, locking himself into occasional childcare and lifelong child support payments. Eventually, Archer has to confront real fatherhood with the birth of Abigine. At first, he handles it about as poorly as expected. He professes his love to Lana and offers to help raise the baby, only to be outright rejected. Lana states she would rather lose the baby than marry him. This sends Archer reeling and straight into a 6-week bender. But despite his terror and ineptitude, Archer returned to father AJ. In season 6, Archer awkwardly integrates into AJ's life, or as much as Lana permits, and he's no model father by any stretch. He complains, he screws up diaper duty, and he often leaves the heavy lifting to Lana or Mallory. Yet, there are hints of growth. Archer starts to show genuine protectiveness and concern for his daughter. In the season 6 episode Sitting, Lana tests Archer by hiring a fake hitman to simulate a danger scenario with baby AJ, a ridiculous ploy, but one that proves a point. Archer reacts in a heartbeat to shield his child, literally takes a bullet to keep AJ safe, and when it's over, Archer is furious at Lana's crazy stunt, but the fact remains that he passed the test. His first instinct was to protect his child, and that paternal instinct only grows stronger as time goes on.
Must protect baby. What the?
Not bad. I'm gonna give you a 7.
Perhaps the most significant shift in Archer's fatherhood arc comes when he awakens from his 3-year coma into, as you might expect, a very different life. He finds Lana married to another man who's been acting as de facto father to AJ in Archer's absence. Archer puts on a flippant front, but it clearly devastates him that his daughter doesn't even know he's her dad. In season 11's Caught Napping, when AJ is kidnapped for ransom, Archer is laser focused on getting his daughter back. It's clear fatherhood is important to him. He even reins in his infamous rampage mode temper to stay clear-headed, knowing AJ's life is on the line. During the rescue, Archer and Lana make a formidable team of protective parents. They save AJ, but the aftermath is bittersweet for Sterling. The little girl runs right past Archer into Robert's arms, not realizing the man who risked everything for her is her real father. This is obviously a type of gut punch that the old Archer couldn't even have imagined would hurt him one day, but it plays as a moment of profound, unspoken heartbreak.
Oof. Well, I wasn't using that hard anyway.
Okay, maybe it was spoken. Seeing this, Lana does ultimately acknowledge that AJ should know her real father, allowing Archer back into AJ's life bit by bit. In one touching scene, Lana mentions that while Archer was in a coma, AJ used to visit and even give him a kiss, calling him Sleeping Beauty to try and wake him. He had mattered to his daughter after all, even if she didn't really fully understand how. By season 13, Lana invites Archer to be more involved. When Lana struggles to connect with now school-age AJ, who is away at boarding school, it's Archer who gives wise parenting advice. He gently suggests that Lana set aside the plans and simply tell AJ, "I love you and I'm proud of you," which prompts the distant child to respond warmly for the first time. Archer had learned what he needed to hear as a kid. Since growing up, Mallory rarely expressed love or pride in Sterling. He was determined not to let Lana repeat the mistake with AJ. He was really acknowledging the truth he's come to embrace, that children need to feel loved, and knowing your parent is proud of you can change your whole outlook. Lana is actually surprised at Archer's insight here and tells him he should be more involved in AJ's life, and it starts to feel like Archer has actually grown into something resembling a father.
Text her that you were just thinking of her and how proud you are, then write, "No need to respond."
How do you know this stuff?
It helps that I've never moved past emotional adolescence.
From a deadbeat avoiding paternity in season 2 to a devoted though flawed dad by season 13, Archer's evolution has everything to do with the father figures who influenced him. Woodhouse showed him the meaning of steadfast care, Burt Reynolds taught him a lesson in empathy and gave him an ideal to shoot for, Ron Cadillac demonstrated the power of simply being there as a family man, and even Mallory's own failures served as a guide of what not to do. Archer's journey through fatherhood is messy and far from over, but somehow he eventually really started to get his shit together. As for Archer's biological father, after 14 seasons of misadventures, this remains the ultimate running gag. Fans have built up webs of theories as tangled and entertaining as the show itself, linking everything from Archer's fear of alligators to the name of Mallory's dog in an effort to answer this question. And it's not like the show hasn't toyed with the audience. They've come so close to spelling it out. Even in the final season, the writers couldn't resist one last tease, before pretty emphatically telling us that the question matters more than the answer. The mystery of Archer's father has given us some of the show's funniest and most heartfelt moments. Solving it outright might have even felt anticlimactic after all the buildup. So, who is Sterling Archer's real father? I think the answer is that it doesn't actually matter. The fun part has been the guessing game, fame, the theories, and what those theories say about Archer himself. Whether his dad turns out to be a spy we've never met, Woodhouse, the president of the United States, or some test tube concoction, the real story has always been about Archer and Mallory, the world's most dysfunctional mother-son bond. And until the day this mystery is definitively solved, if it ever is, fans will keep spinning their wheels, dissecting every line and frame for clues, and probably loving every minute of it. I mean, do we really want a neat and tidy answer?
How was the zoo?
Mom, it was amazing. I saw an elephant, we had cotton candy, Dad got me a...
Let it be a surprise.
Folks, thanks so much for tuning into this Archer video. I am a huge fan of this series, but this video is actually written and edited by Archer superfan Kayla Gale. Make sure to check out her work if it interests you, and stay tuned for likely more Archer videos in the future. Peace.
I stay mellow watching Johnny Two Cellos. He talks cartoons, he's a really cool fellow. He keeps you posted on adult cartoons. If that's what you're into, then grab a spoon and a very big bowl of your favorite cereal. Feels like Saturday morning cartoon material. Johnny Two Cellos, watch him on YouTube. Now enjoy this groove and bust a move.